Now, do you remember when the Pope endorsed Trump for president, or that Hillary Clinton was in such bad health that she might need a body double? In fact, they used a body double. Well, there's some of the most viral news stories shared on Facebook. They also happen to be untrue.
So is Facebook allowing fake news to prosper? That is what our technology correspondent Tom Cheshire is arguing in today's Sky Views piece, and he joins us now from our central London studio. And of course, this is really important, Tom, because so many people get all of their news today from Facebook. Dare I say it, not from Sky News, but from Facebook.
I mean, Facebook is a little bigger than Sky News. You've got more than 1 billion people on it, and more than 60% of US adults get their news from Facebook. So it's a massively influential website, apps, all the rest of it, and then a lot of people get their news from it, and that's really worrying because fake news spreads so quickly. And the way it looks is when you see these fake stories, like you mentioned all those. Do you remember that quote about when Donald Trump said, supposedly in 1998, if I were to run, I'd run as a Republican. They're the dumbest group of voters in the country. That was on my Facebook feed a lot from a lot of friends who maybe preferred Clinton to Trump. It's entirely untrue as well. It's quite a plausible one, but it just went like wildfire. And it's very hard to debunk these things once they're out there. And when you see it in your news feed, you've got the story there, and it looks the same as, say, a story from Sky News or the New York Times, but it's very pernicious, and it's just spreading all over the internet, and it's poisoning civil discourse. It's happening on both sides. It's happening on left and right, and it's something that's really baked into the mechanism of Facebook, which wants you to read it, wants you to spend more time on the site. That's what it's interested in. So actually, the biggest source of fake news in this whole election was a small town in Macedonia, and this wasn't Trump supporters putting out information. It was just they realized they could make a lot of money by selling advertising next to this. They knew people would click on it. So it's Facebook's business model that really encourages it, and that's why they haven't done anything really to address it, despite their huge responsibility.
Yeah, but we're not daft, though, are we, Tom? We do realise that Facebook is not a legitimate news source. We know that, in effect, you can put anything you like on there until someone decides that they're going to take it down. Why would we just see it and believe it?
I mean, I think you're right. I think what you get when you're watching a news channel, for instance, or you're reading a newspaper, and it's a very good point also that fake news predates Facebook. You know, you've got newspapers have always made up stories, maybe not to the wildly exaggerated things you get on Facebook at the moment, but I do think just the way it's presented makes it very hard to actually distinguish what's going on, and you'd hope a bit of common sense would be applied. But I mean, there's not much common sense on the internet, full stop. People read what they want to read. It confirms in their beliefs. It gets them whipped up. It makes them share it all over the media. And as a result, you have this quite pernicious situation. There's one Facebook doesn't change. I had breakfast with the chief technology officer of Facebook the other day, and he admits it is a problem. They're aware of it. They're thinking about it. But he says it's very hard to build this into the algorithms and systems. The algorithms are there, he said, to give people what they want. Now, that's not necessarily good. Sometimes you need to give people the truth instead of it. And indeed, last night, Mark Zuckerberg, I wrote this Sky Views piece yesterday, and last night on stage, Mark Zuckerberg's obviously been reading my Facebook or something, but he addressed this very problem, and he said this: the idea that fake news on Facebook, which is a very small amount of the content, influenced the election in any way, I think is a pretty crazy idea. I think that's a pretty crazy idea. I think that's nonsense what he's saying, and I think Facebook has a real responsibility here, along with other social media platforms, but Facebook, because people spend so much time there, to try and figure this out, because we've had this election. It's been a very nasty election. The news was both on fake news from the left and also from the right, but we want to stop this thing happening again, and so we can actually talk seriously about the issues at stake.
And of course, Tom, so much of the American election was centred around these fact-checkers and the lack of them during the debates. And you just wonder if, as journalists, we're all held to account. We're all taught that we need to check our sources and make sure that truth is at the heart of what we're reporting. Do you think that there could be a situation where there is pressure put on Facebook to try and make sure there is some sort of fact-checking going on?
I think there is. They've tried this a little bit. So Facebook has a thing called trending stories, which you might have noticed in the side. It's the stories that are most popular. And they used to have human editors curating this. They got into a bit of trouble that the fake news was appearing. They got rid of it. They replaced it with algorithms. And then the problem still goes. So they're just trying to hope, really, that goes away. I think the difference in this election as well, in terms of what you're saying about fact-checking, I think there was a lot of fact-checking. And also, Stephen, what you're saying about how people should be able to realise this, I agree with that. But what you had in the election especially was one candidate, the now president-elect, who was eager to seize on this. He's saying, don't read the newspapers, don't watch TV, go to the internet, look at this. So every time there was a conspiracy theory, you'd have Donald Trump saying this is the truth. You didn't have that on the other side, and that's probably what made it quite so pernicious.
Interesting. Well, Tom, thanks very much for sharing that with us. And just a reminder to everybody at home, you can read Tom's piece, which we believe Mark Zuckerberg might have already done. It's called Facebook is Letting Fake News Thrive, and it's on skynews.com, or you can get it on the Sky News app.
Oh, it's like citizen journalism, as they call it now, which is nonsense, because you can say what you like and get away with it, which we can't, I'm very pleased to say.